The first contraction hit me like a freight train, and I gripped Jacoby's hand so hard I thought I might break it. This was supposed to be our moment, just me, my husband, and the miracle we'd created together. I'm Georgia, and this was the day I learned that some battles leave scars that take years to heal. "You're doing great, honey," Jacoby whispered, wiping my forehead with a cool cloth. "Remember your breathing exercises." The delivery room was exactly as I'd planned: dimmed lights, soft music, and the gentle encouragement of my midwife, Maria. We'd spent months preparing for this intimate experience, down to the lavender essential oils diffusing in the corner. "How many centimeters?" I managed between breaths. "You're at 8, Maria said with a reassuring smile. "Almost there. Your body knows what to do." The door burst open with such force that the handle left a dent in the wall. There stood Sonya, my mother-in-law, in all her glory, designer handbag swinging, perfectly coiffed hair, and that look of absolute authority I'd grown to dread. "Mom?" Jacoby's voice cracked. "You're supposed to be in the waiting room." "Nonsense. I'm not missing the birth of my first grandchild." She strode in like she owned the place, already pulling up a chair. "No," I said through gritted teeth. "We discussed this. I only want Jacoby here." "Georgia, dear." Sonia's saccharine voice made my skin crawl. "You're being ridiculous. I've had 2 children of my own. I know what's best." Maria stepped forward. "Ma'am, the mother's wishes." "I'm family," Sonya cut her off, "and I'm staying." Another contraction ripped through me, and I couldn't fight both the pain and this invasion at the same time. I looked to Jacoby, silently pleading for him to stand up to his mother. He shifted uncomfortably. "Mom, maybe you should—" "Jacoby, don't you dare finish that sentence." Sonia's voice turned to steel. "I raised you better than to exclude your mother from such an important moment." I watched my husband deflate, and something inside me broke. Through the haze of pain and hormones, I saw with crystal clarity how this woman had systematically steamrolled over every boundary we'd tried to set since our wedding day. "Push, Georgia," Maria called out. "The baby's coming." What should have been the most empowering moment of my life became a circus, with Sonya providing running commentary on everything from my breathing technique to my unnecessary screaming. "When I had Jacoby, I barely made a sound," she announced to the room. "Really, Georgia, you're being quite dramatic." I closed my eyes, trying to block her out, but her voice kept cutting through my concentration like a knife. The baby was coming whether I wanted witnesses or not, and suddenly my body took over. "I can see the head," Maria exclaimed. "One more big push." Sonya actually pulled out her phone. "Let me get a video for the family group chat." "No," I screamed, but it wasn't just about the video anymore. It was about every time she'd undermined me, every decision she'd questioned, every moment she'd stolen. The final push brought my daughter into the world, her first cry piercing the air like a declaration of war. As they placed her on my chest, her tiny body warm and perfect, I made a silent vow. "Oh, let me hold her." Sonya was already reaching for my baby. "No." My voice was quiet but firm. The room fell silent. "What did you say?" Sonya's eyes narrowed. I looked directly at her, still cradling my daughter. "I said no. You've taken enough from me today. You will not take this moment too." "Jacoby," she appealed to her son, but something had shifted in the room. He straightened his spine. "Mom, please wait outside." The look of shock on her face would have been comical if I wasn't so exhausted and angry. She gathered her designer bag and stormed out, but not before delivering her parting shot. "Well, I never. This is how you treat family." As the door closed behind her, I looked down at my daughter's perfect face and whispered, "I promise you, little one, no one will ever make us feel powerless again." Jacoby kissed my forehead. "I'm so sorry, Georgia. I should have—" "Yes, you should have," I cut him off. "But right now, let's just be here with our daughter." As I held my baby, watching her tiny fingers wrap around mine, I knew something fundamental had changed. Sonya had stormed my sacred space, but she'd unknowingly planted the seeds of her own undoing. I didn't know how or when, but someday she would learn what it felt like to be on the receiving end of powerlessness. My daughter yawned, and I smiled. We had all the time in the world. 5 years can change everything. I stood at the front of our community center's meeting room, watching as another group of women settled into the circle of chairs. Each face held a story. Each pair of eyes reflected battles fought in silence. My daughter Emma's birth had sparked something in me that grew into this, a sanctuary where women could reclaim their power. "Welcome, everyone," I said, meeting each gaze. "Today we're talking about boundaries." Carmen, my mentor and co-facilitator, handed out journals to the newcomers. "Remember," she added, "what's shared in this room stays in this room." A young woman with trembling hands raised her voice. "My mother-in-law moved in with us last month. She rearranges my kitchen every week because that's how it should be done." Her laugh was hollow. "I feel like I'm losing my mind." "I know exactly how that feels," I said, thinking of Sonya. "Let's talk about how to handle that." For the next hour, we shared strategies and stories. Carmen's expertise in family counseling complemented my real-world experience perfectly. We'd built something powerful here, a network of women supporting women. After the session, Carmen pulled me aside. "You've come so far from that angry new mom I met at the hospital support group. Angry mom who couldn't stop crying about her ruined birth experience," I corrected with a smile. "You saved me that day." "No, you saved yourself. I just showed you how to channel that energy." My phone buzzed, a text from Jacoby. Mum called, something about the market crash and her investments. "Can we talk when you get home?" "Speaking of mothers-in-law," I muttered, showing Carmen the message. She raised an eyebrow. Karma works in mysterious ways. At home, I found Jacoby pacing our living room. Emma was already asleep upstairs, her stuffed giraffe keeping watch. "Mom's in trouble," he said without preamble. "She lost everything in some high-risk investments. The house, her savings, all gone." I sank into our couch. "Everything?" "Her financial advisor apparently vanished with half her money, and the rest." He ran his hands through his hair. "She's facing bankruptcy." The mighty Sonya Maya, brought low by her own hubris. The words slipped out before I could stop them. "Georgia," Jacoby's voice held a warning. "She's still my mother. The same mother who hasn't spoken to me since Emma's 2nd birthday, when I refused to let her take our daughter to New York without us. She needs a place to stay." The room went silent. 5 years of carefully maintained distance threatened to collapse. My phone rang. Layla, my best friend and voice of reason. "Tell me you're not considering it," she said when I answered. "How did you—" "Jacoby called me first, hoping I'd talk you into it. Georgia, honey, remember what we discussed in therapy about toxic family dynamics?" I put her on speaker. "She's homeless, Layla." "She's manipulative," Layla countered. "Remember Christmas, when she tried to guilt you into spending 10 grand on that family cruise?" Jacoby winced. That had been our last major family blowout. A text from Carmen lit up my phone. "Remember what you told Sarah today about turning pain into purpose?" Suddenly, everything clicked into place. I looked at Jacoby, a plan forming. "She can stay with us," I said slowly, "on one condition." "Anything," Jacoby said, relief flooding his face. "She works with me at the Women's Center, as my assistant." Layla's laughter crackled through the speaker. "Oh my God, you're brilliant." "Georgia," Jacoby started, "those are my terms. She wants our help. She can help other women learn what she's spent a lifetime ignoring, the importance of respect and boundaries. She'll never agree to that. Then she'll never understand what real strength looks like." I stood up, feeling more certain with each word. "Call her. Tell her my offer." After Jacoby left to make the call, Layla spoke softly. "You're playing with fire, girl." "No," I replied, watching the sunset through our living room window. "I'm teaching someone how to respect its power." My phone buzzed again. Another text from Carmen. "Whatever you're planning, remember karma goes both ways." I smiled, thinking of all the women in our circle, thinking of Emma sleeping peacefully upstairs, thinking of Sonya facing the consequences of her choices. Sometimes, I texted back, Karma needs a little push in the right direction. Jacoby returned, his face unreadable. She's coming tomorrow. She said yes. And just like that, the wheel of karma began to turn. Sonya arrived in a taxi instead of her usual luxury car, but her entrance was no less dramatic. Even with just 2 suitcases, down from her typical 5, she managed to make our front porch look like a fashion show runway. The guest room is upstairs, I said, not moving to help with her bags. Second door on the right. Grandma! Emma came barreling down the stairs, pigtails flying. Sonia's face softened for a moment as she hugged her granddaughter. There's my little princess. My goodness, you've grown. I'm 5 now, Emma announced proudly, and I can read all by myself. That's wonderful, darling. Now where's your father? At work, I answered. He'll be home for dinner. Emma, honey, go finish your homework. Once Emma disappeared upstairs, the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. So, Sonya perched on our couch like it might bite her. Jacoby mentioned some sort of community service requirement. It's not community service. You'll be helping me at the Women's Empowerment Center, starting tomorrow. She laughed, that practiced society lady laugh that always set my teeth on edge. Surely you're joking. I don't do charity work. This isn't a negotiation, Sonya. You want to stay here. These are the terms. And what exactly would this help entail? Setting up for sessions, taking notes, managing the schedule, basic administrative work. I haven't done administrative work since 1982. She spat the words like they tasted bad. Times change. I sat across from her. Sometimes they change us whether we want them to or not. Her perfectly manicured fingers gripped her designer handbag, probably one of the last remnants of her former life. You're enjoying this, aren't you? About as much as you enjoyed hijacking my delivery room. The front door opened, and Jacoby walked in, his timing impeccable as always. Mom, you made it. He hugged her, then glanced between us. Everything okay in here? Your wife was just explaining her conditions. Sonia's voice could have frozen hell. They're reasonable terms, Mom. Georgia helps a lot of people at that center. By sitting around talking about feelings, Sonya scoffed. In my day, women handled their problems privately. And how did that work out for you? The words shot out before I could stop them. Jacoby stepped between us. Let's have dinner. Emma's probably hungry. Dinner was a masterclass in passive-aggressive warfare. Sonya commented on everything from my cooking, the chicken's a bit dry, dear, to our dining room decor. Those curtains are interesting. Emma, bless her heart, filled the awkward silences with stories about school and her friends. I watched Sonya with her granddaughter, noting how different she was with Emma versus everyone else. There was genuine warmth there, hidden beneath layers of control and judgment. What time do I need to be at this center tomorrow? Sonya finally asked as we cleared the dishes. 9 a.m. sharp. Wear something comfortable. No heels. She looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. I always wear heels. Not tomorrow, you don't. Later that night, after Emma was in bed, Jacoby found me in our bedroom. Thank you for doing this. I'm not doing it for her. I know. He sat beside me. But she's different now. Losing everything. It's changed her. Has it? Or is she just better at hiding who she really is? Georgia, no, listen to me. I turned to face him. 5 years ago, I promised myself I wouldn't let anyone make me feel powerless again. This isn't about revenge. It's about teaching her what real strength looks like. He was quiet for a moment. Just be careful. She's still my mother. And I'm still your wife, the wife who needed you to stand up for her 5 years ago. The silence between us grew heavy with unspoken words. My phone buzzed, a text from Carmen. Ready for tomorrow? As ready as I'll ever be, I typed back. From down the hall, I heard Sonia's voice as she talked on her phone. It's temporary, darling. Just until I get back on my feet. No, you wouldn't believe the conditions. like some sort of servant. I smiled to myself. Tomorrow would be interesting. What are you thinking? Jacoby asked, watching my expression. I'm thinking about karma, I replied, and how sometimes it needs a well-organized schedule and comfortable shoes. From downstairs came the sound of Sonya rearranging our kitchen cabinets. Some things never change, but some things were about to. Sonya showed up to her first session wearing yoga pants and flats, looking like she'd been forced to wear someone else's skin. Her expression suggested she'd rather be anywhere else as she arranged chairs in our circle. Remember, I said, handing her a notebook, your job is to observe and take notes. No commenting, no interrupting. I assume I'm also not allowed to breathe without permission. She smoothed her perfectly styled hair. Carmen walked in, assessed the situation, and smiled. You must be Sonya. Georgia's told me so much about you. All lies, I'm sure. Sonia's smile didn't reach her eyes. Women began filtering in, filling the circle with their presence. Today's group included Sarah, still struggling with her controlling mother-in-law, and Maria, fresh from leaving her emotionally abusive husband. Today, I began, we're discussing the price of silence, the cost of swallowing our words to keep the peace. From her corner, Sonia's pen scratched against paper, her posture rigid. Maria spoke first. Yesterday, I finally told my children why we left their father. My daughter hugged me and said, I'm proud of you, Mum. I cried for an hour. That's wonderful, Carmen said. Breaking silence takes incredible courage. My brother hasn't spoken to me in 15 years, Sarah shared, because I sided with his wife when he tried to control her career choices. Sometimes the price of speaking up is losing family. I noticed Sonia's hand freeze mid-note. Would anyone else like to share? I asked. A new member, Rebecca, raised her hand. My mother controlled everything in my life, who I could be friends with, what I could wear, who I could date. When I finally stood up to her, she cut me off completely, said I was ungrateful. Sonia's pen snapped in half. Everything okay over there? Carmen asked her. Fine. Sonia's voice was tight. Just reminded me of someone. After the session, while Sonya was organizing the filing cabinet, Carmen pulled me aside. Did you know about her brother? What brother? The way she reacted to Sarah's story. There's definitely some family estrangement there. I found Sonya alphabetizing folders with military precision. I didn't know you had a brother. The folder in her hands crumpled slightly. Corey, we haven't spoken in a while. Why not? He chose his wife over family loyalty. She slammed the drawer shut. She convinced him I was toxic because I suggested they wait to have children until their careers were more stable. Next thing I knew, they'd moved across the country. No contact, no Christmas cards, nothing. Did you try to contact them? They made their choice. Her voice could have cut glass. Family should always come first. Like when you put yourself first in my delivery room. She spun to face me. That was different. I was trying to help. Were you? Or were you trying to control the situation, just like with Corey? You don't know anything about my relationship with my brother. I know what it's like to have someone steamroll over my choices because they think they know better. The silence between us crackled with tension. My phone buzzed. A text from Jacoby. Mum okay? She's not answering her phone. Your son's checking on you, I said, showing her the message. At least one of my children still cares. She grabbed her purse. Are we done here? For today. Tomorrow we're discussing forgiveness. She paused at the door. Will that be before or after you finish enjoying my humiliation? This isn't about humiliation, Sonya. It's about understanding. Understanding what? That you've won? That you have all the power now? That power isn't about control. It's about choice. She left without responding, her footsteps echoing down the hall. Carmen appeared beside me. Well, that was intense. Did you see her face during Rebecca's story? Like looking in a mirror she didn't want to see. Carmen gathered her things. Be careful, Georgia. Sometimes when people are forced to face their reflections, they lash out. That evening, I found Sonya in our kitchen, cooking dinner while Emma did homework at the counter. "Grandma's teaching me how to make her special pasta sauce," Emma announced. "Is she?" I watched Sonya methodically chop herbs. "I didn't know you cooked." "There's a lot you don't know about me." She didn't look up. "Just like there's a lot my brother doesn't know." Emma looked between us, sensing the tension. "Can we call Uncle Corey sometime? I've never met him." Sonia's knife slipped, nearly cutting her finger. "Homework first, sweetheart, then we'll talk about dinner." I watched her hands shake slightly as she resumed chopping and wondered what other stories lay buried beneath her perfectly maintained facade. 2 weeks into our new arrangement, I found Sonya crying in the guest room. She was clutching an old photograph, her mascara creating dark rivers down her cheeks. "I can come back," I said, hovering in the doorway. "It's your house." She quickly wiped her eyes. "I was just organizing." The photograph showed a younger Sonya, with her arm around a man who shared her sharp features and determined jaw. "Corey?" "Our last Christmas together." She traced the image with her finger. Before Amanda convinced him I was trying to ruin their lives. "Were you?" "I was trying to protect them." The photograph crumpled in her grip. They had no savings, no stable jobs. Having a baby would have been irresponsible. "Like how you were protecting me in the delivery room." Her head snapped up. "That's not—" She stopped, something shifting in her expression. "Is that really how it felt?" Before I could answer, my phone rang. It was Layla. "You're not going to believe this," she said when I answered. "Your mother-in-law's brother. He's moving back to town." My eyes met Sonia's. "How do you know that?" "His wife Amanda just joined our real estate office. They're looking for a house in the area." Sonya must have heard Amanda's name because she stood up so quickly she knocked over a lamp. "I need to go for a walk." "Sonya, wait." But she was already rushing down the stairs. I heard the front door slam. "Was that her?" Layla asked. "Yeah, listen, I'll call you back." I found Carmen's number in my contacts. "Emergency meeting," I texted. "My office in 20, she replied. When I arrived at Carmen's office, she was already brewing tea. "So, the prodigal brother returns. I don't know if I'm helping or making things worse," I admitted. Yesterday, she actually apologized to one of our group members for interrupting her story. But today reality came knocking. Carmen handed me a cup. "Georgia, what's your endgame here?" I thought I knew. I thought making her understand how it feels to be powerless would be satisfying. And now I'm watching her fall apart and it feels hollow. My phone buzzed with a text from Jacoby. "Mom's sitting in the park across from my office. Should I be worried?" "The universe has interesting timing," Carmen mused. Just as Sonya starts to show real change, her biggest regret comes back into play. "What do I do?" "What would you tell one of our group members?" I thought about Maria, about Sarah, about all the women we'd helped find their voice. I'd tell them that true power isn't about control. It's about choosing how to respond. "So maybe it's time to choose," Carmen said softly. When I got home, Sonya was in the kitchen with Emma, teaching her how to make cookies. Her eyes were still red, but her hands were steady as she measured flour. "Mommy," Emma called, "Grandma's showing me her secret recipe." "Is she?" I caught Sonia's eye. "That's new." "Well," Sonya said, helping Emma crack an egg, "some secrets are meant to be shared." After Emma went to bed, I found Sonya on the back porch, staring at her phone. "Amanda sent me a friend request on Facebook," she said without looking up. 15 years of silence, and now a friend request. "Are you going to accept it?" "I don't know how." Her voice cracked. "Not just the request, any of it. How do you face someone after 15 years of pride and anger?" "One step at a time," I sat beside her. "Like making cookies with your granddaughter." She smiled slightly. "Emma reminds me of Corey at that age. Always curious, always wanting to learn." "There's a family reunion next month," I said carefully. "Jacoby's been talking about going. I can find somewhere else to stay that weekend. Or you could come with us. Face it head on." She looked at me sharply. "Why would you help me with this, after everything?" Because watching someone suffer isn't as satisfying as watching them grow. Her phone lit up with another notification, a message from Amanda. Corey misses you. We both do. Sonia's hands shook as she showed me the message. I don't deserve a second chance. Maybe that's not for you to decide. I stood up. Think about it. The reunion's 4 weeks away. As I headed inside, she called after me. Georgia, thank you for not giving up on me, even when I probably deserved it. I paused at the door. Everyone deserves a chance to rewrite their story, Sonya. Even you. That night, I lay awake thinking about karma, about cycles of hurt and healing, and about the thin line between justice and mercy. Tomorrow would bring another session, another chance for growth, another step toward whatever ending we were all walking toward. The family reunion was being held at my sister-in-law's lakeside home, and the tension in our car could have powered a small city. Emma chatted happily in the back seat, while Sonya gripped her purse like a lifeline. We can still turn around, I offered as we pulled into the driveway. No. Sonya straightened her spine. I've run away long enough. Corey and Amanda were already there, standing on the porch with Jacoby's sister, Lisa. The resemblance between Corey and Sonya was striking. Same determined jaw, same proud posture. But where Sonya's eyes held fear, Corey's showed only exhaustion. Emma broke the ice by running straight to Lisa, shouting, Aunt Lisa, did you bring the water balloons you promised? The adults laughed, tension cracking slightly. Sonya. Corey's voice was quiet but carried across the yard. You look well. As do you. She took a hesitant step forward. Amanda, your hair is different. Amanda touched her grey-streaked bob. 15 years will do that. Lunch is ready inside, Lisa announced, clearly trying to move things along. Emma, want to help me set the table? In the dining room, conversation stayed carefully neutral. Weather, Emma's school achievements, Lisa's new job. The elephant in the room grew larger with each passing minute. So, Amanda finally said, how are you finding Georgia's women's group, Sonya? Sonya's fork clattered against her plate. You know about that. Small town. Amanda shrugged. I've actually been thinking of attending. You, Sonya's voice cracked, to support others. After what happened with us, I've learned a lot about family dynamics and healing. Healing? Sonya's laugh was bitter. Is that what you call taking my brother away? Mom, Jacoby warned. No, let her speak, Corey said. We've all been silent too long. You chose her over family. Sonya's words exploded out. You threw away everything because she convinced you I was controlling. You were controlling. Corey stood up. You tried to dictate every aspect of our lives, just like you did with Jacoby and Georgia. Emma looked up from her plate, eyes wide. Mommy? Emma, sweetie, why don't we go check out those water balloons? Lisa quickly led her outside. I was protecting you. Sonya's hands shook. Both of you, that's what family does. No, I found myself saying. That's what fear does. All eyes turned to me. What would you know about it? Sonya demanded. I know what it's like to have someone try to control me because they're afraid. Afraid of losing power, losing connection, losing love. Amanda reached across the table toward Sonya. We never wanted to lose you. We just needed you to see us as adults capable of making our own choices. Even if those choices were mistakes. Sonya's voice was small, especially then, Corey said, because they were our mistakes to make. Silence fell over the table. Through the window, we could hear Emma's laughter as she played with Lisa. In group, Sonya said slowly, we talked about the difference between protecting and controlling. I didn't understand it then, but... She looked at her brother. I think I'm starting to. It's not too late, Amanda said softly. We're here now. Why? Sonya's eyes filled with tears. Why come back after all this time? Because, Corey moved to his sister's side, family is worth a second chance, even when it's messy, even when it's hard. I watched as 15 years of walls began to crumble. Sonya reached for her brother's hand, and suddenly they were both crying, years of hurt and pride washing away in a flood of tears. I'm sorry, Sonya whispered. I'm so sorry. Me too. Corey pulled her into a hug. For staying away so long. Amanda caught my eye across the table and mouthed, "Thank you." I nodded, understanding flowing between us. Jacoby squeezed my hand under the table. "You did this," he whispered. "No," I replied. "She did. She just needed the right push." Later, as Emma threw water balloons with her Uncle Corey, teaching him the proper technique for maximum splash, I found Sonya watching from the porch. "Karma's strange, isn't it?" she said as I joined her. "I spent years thinking I was protecting everyone, and all I did was build walls." "Walls can come down," I said. "Yes," she turned to me. "They can. Georgia, about the delivery room." "We don't have to." "Yes, we do. I was wrong. I was so focused on controlling the situation that I stole something precious from you. I'm sorry." The words I'd waited 5 years to hear, and somehow they meant both more and less than I'd expected. "I know," I said simply. And we watched as Emma's laughter brought her uncle and aunt into a water balloon fight that would surely become a new family legend. A week after the reunion, Sonya made her first major mistake at the Women's Center. We were hosting a session about maternal relationships when she broke our cardinal rule: never interrupt a woman's story. "That's not entirely fair to your mother," she said to Rebecca, who was sharing about her childhood. "Parents make mistakes out of love." The room went silent. Rebecca's face crumpled. "Sonya," I warned, but she continued. "I mean, look at me. I thought I was protecting my children, my brother. Sometimes we don't realize the damage we're doing until—" "Until what?" Rebecca stood up, shaking. "Until you've destroyed someone's confidence. Until you've made them feel worthless. I didn't mean—" "This isn't about you." Rebecca grabbed her purse. "This was supposed to be my story." She stormed out, leaving behind a heavy silence. Carmen stepped forward. "Let's take a 15-minute break." In my office, Sonya paced like a caged animal. "I was trying to help. By making her story about your redemption arc." "No, I saw myself in her mother. I thought if I could explain—" "It's not your place to explain." I leaned against my desk. "These women come here to be heard, not justified." "I know that now." She sank into a chair. "I really messed up, didn't I?" "Yes. So what are you going to do about it?" She looked up, surprised. "You're not firing me?" "Would that help anyone?" Before she could answer, Carmen knocked and entered. "Rebecca's in my office. She's pretty upset." Sonya stood immediately. "I need to apologize." "Are you sure that's wise?" Carmen asked. "No." Sonya smoothed her shirt. "But it's necessary." We found Rebecca curled up in Carmen's office, clutching a tissue. When she saw Sonya, her shoulders stiffened. "I came to apologize," Sonya said softly, "and to listen, if you're willing to share your story again." Rebecca studied her for a long moment. "Why should I?" "Because I was wrong to interrupt, because your story matters, and because—" Sonya's voice cracked. "Because I need to hear it, really hear it." Something shifted in Rebecca's expression. "Sit down." For the next hour, Rebecca talked about growing up with a mother who criticized every choice, who used love as a weapon, who made her feel like she was never enough. Sonya listened, really listened, tears streaming down her face. "It's like drowning," Rebecca finished, "except the person holding you under keeps saying they're teaching you to swim." "I understand now," Sonya whispered. "I was that mother, that sister, that monster who thought control was love." "You're not a monster." Rebecca reached out and took Sonya's hand. "You're here listening. My mother would never do that." The moment was interrupted by my phone buzzing. A text from Jacoby. "Emma's running a fever. Can you come home?" "I need to go," I said. "Family emergency." "Go," Carmen nodded. "We've got this." At home, I found Emma burning up on the couch while Jacoby tried to coax her to take medicine. "No," she wailed. "It tastes yucky." "Please, sweetie, you need to—" "Let me try." Sonya appeared behind me, having followed me home. She knelt beside Emma. "Remember how you helped me be brave at the reunion? Now it's my turn to help you. Emma sniffled. Really? Really, sometimes brave girls need to do hard things, like taking medicine or… She glanced at me, admitting when we're wrong. Emma took the medicine. Later that night, after Emma was asleep, Sonya found me in the kitchen. I've been thinking, she said, about what Rebecca said about drowning. And I want to lead next week's session, share my story, the whole story. I nearly dropped my coffee mug. Are you sure? These women deserve to know they're not alone. That change is possible. She twisted her hands together. Will you help me prepare? Of course. Georgia, her voice was small, thank you for not giving up on me, for pushing me into that center, for… She gestured vaguely. Everything. You did the hard work, because you gave me no choice. There's always a choice, Sonya. You just finally made the right one. My phone buzzed again. A message from Rebecca. Thank your mother-in-law for me. Today was… healing. I showed Sonya the message. Healing, she repeated thoughtfully. Yes, I suppose that's what this has been all along. Not punishment, not revenge, just healing. Through the baby monitor, we heard Emma cough. I'll go, Sonya said. You've done enough caretaking for one day. As she headed upstairs, I thought about karma, about cycles breaking, about wounds becoming wisdom. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't making someone suffer, it's helping them become better. The women's center was packed for Sonya's session. Even Amanda had come, sitting quietly in the back. Emma insisted on attending too, coloring quietly in the corner while her grandmother took center stage. My name is Sonya, she began, her voice steady, despite her trembling hands. And I'm here to talk about control, love, and the long journey between the two. I watched as she shared everything. The delivery room invasion, the fight with Corey, the financial collapse that brought her to my door. Her voice broke only once, when she described the moment she realized she'd lost her brother. I thought power meant never having to say you're sorry, she said. I was wrong. Real power is having the courage to admit when you've hurt people you love. Rebecca wiped tears from her eyes. Other women nodded, recognizing their own stories in Sonya's words. My daughter-in-law, Sonya looked at me, taught me that lesson the hard way. She could have turned me away when I had nothing. Instead, she showed me what true strength looks like. Emma looked up from her coloring. That's my mommy. The group laughed, breaking the tension. Yes, sweetheart, that's your mommy. Sonya smiled. The woman I once tried to control became the one who helped me find my way back to myself. Amanda stood up. And back to family. Sonya's eyes widened as Amanda walked to the front of the room. I have a story too, Amanda said, about a sister-in-law I feared, then hated, then missed. About 15 years of silence that could have been 15 years of growth. They hugged, and I heard sniffling throughout the room. The thing about karma, I found myself saying, is that it's not about punishment, it's about balance, about learning the lessons we need most. Even when they hurt, Sonya added, especially then, Carmen agreed. After the session, as women shared coffee and tissues, Corey arrived to pick up Amanda. He hesitated in the doorway until Emma ran to him. Uncle Corey, Grandma told everyone her story. She was so brave. Yes, he said, looking at his sister. She was. Sonya approached him cautiously. I'm house hunting next week. Found a small place near here. Near the center, he asked. Near family, she corrected. He nodded, understanding flowing between them. Need help moving? I'd like that. Emma tugged on Sonya's sleeve. Can I help too? I'm really good at organizing. Just like your grandmother, Jacoby said, joining us. The words held no bitterness now, only affection. Later that evening, our house full of family sharing takeout and stories, I slipped away to the back porch. Sonya followed me out. I've been thinking about the delivery room, she said. Sonya, we don't need to… Please. She sat beside me. That day, I thought I was claiming my right as a grandmother, but I was really just afraid. Of what? Of not being needed, of losing control, of— She gestured at the warm scene through the window, of missing moments like this. You nearly did. I know, but you gave me a second chance, even if it came with comfortable shoes and administrative duties. I laughed. The shoes were non-negotiable. Inside, Emma was teaching Corey and Amanda her secret cookie recipe, Sonia's recipe, passed down with love instead of conditions. I'm keeping my job at the center, Sonya announced suddenly. What? Part-time, of course. These women, their stories, they remind me to stay humble, to stay human. Are you sure? Georgia, she turned to face me. You thought you were teaching me a lesson about powerlessness. Instead, you taught me about strength. Real strength. Through the window, Emma's laughter mixed with Corey's deep chuckle and Amanda's gentle teasing. Jacoby caught my eye and smiled, that same smile that had made me fall in love with him years ago. You know what the hardest part was? Sonya asked softly. What? Realizing that letting go of control doesn't mean losing love. It means making room for more of it. I thought about karma, about cycles ending and beginning, about the thin line between justice and grace, about a delivery room 5 years ago, and a woman who thought she was claiming power but was really just showing her fear. Welcome to the family, I said, the real one this time. Sonya squeezed my hand, and we sat in comfortable silence, watching our family through the window, whole and healing, broken and beautiful, exactly as we were meant to be. Inside, Emma started dealing cards for Go Fish, her voice carrying through the screen door. Everyone has to play. It's a family rule. And so we went inside, joining the circle, each of us holding our cards and our stories, ready to play by the new rules we'd written together.